Texans today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and on today's show, I'm going to be breaking down an overreaction Monday after the Texans' 14-9 loss to the LA Rams. It was not pretty, and a lot of overreactions if you've been on Texans Twitter over the past 24 hours, because it was just a bad showing all around by your Houston Texans, and obviously losing week one is never ideal. The way that the Texans lost and how it all went down, very, very, deja vu to how we felt last season with this Texans team and most namely this Texans offense. So before I get into my biggest overreaction, my biggest takeaways, let me know, what is your biggest takeaway from this Texans versus Rams game? What is maybe your biggest overreaction, something that you are taking away from this week one matchup that the Texans lost in SoFi Stadium? Let me know down in the comments section. I'm going to start with the offense and then go to the defense for my overreaction. So first, on offense, and if you're new to the program, I use Toro heads. If I give something 4 Toro heads, that means it's 100% true. It's happening. If I give something 1 Toro head or fake news, obviously it's the opposite. It's not going down. So the Texans O-line, is it cooked? Call me crazy, but I still have some hope. 1 Toro head that the Texans O-line is cooked. Jake Andrews injured. He was carted off. DeMeco Ryans, the head coach, said, we'll evaluate him and see where he's at the later on in the week. If I know anything about Texans injuries, Jake Andrews might be out 4 weeks. He might be out for the rest of the season. We won't know until that injury report comes out or he's officially listed out from next week's matchup up against the Tampa Bay Bucks. But as I look at this Texans offensive line, the depth chart, one part of this Texans offensive line, and it really upset me that he wasn't out there in week one, was Ed Ingram. The right guard was a late scratch. Showed up on the injury report, I believe, maybe Thursday or Friday. Abdominal pain, and then now he was out for the first, game of the season. And he was the Texans' highest-rated offensive lineman per PFF. So him not being out there, him missing this week one game was bad. I thought Ursery was up and down. He was a rookie, but I didn't think he played too bad. Some dumb penalties by this Texans team. Blake Fisher was in the game for 5 games, and he let his presence be known with a couple of flags. So I am fully out on Blake Fisher. I cannot see how you see Blake Fisher and still feel like, oh yeah, he's worth that second-round pick. I think the Texans would be lucky if they got a 6th or 7th round pick near the trade deadline for Blake Fisher. For even with as many teams that need offensive line help as they do, I don't think any teams are going out and trying to, trade for Blake Fisher or looking for a Blake Fisher to add to their roster. Do I think the O-line is cooked? No. Week one, I thought, it was just so many dumb mistakes, but I still have a little bit of hope. I still think Titus Howard's better at right tackle. They kept him in at right guard. They ended up bringing Cam Robinson back in, and they moved Ursery back to right tackle. But I still think the best 5 on this Texans offensive line is with Ursery at left tackle, Titus Howard at right tackle, Ingram and Laken Tomlinson at guards, and then I guess Jarrett Patterson now at center. But it was very telling that the Texans ended up trying to put Blake Fisher in over Juice Scruggs and moving Titus Howard back out. I don't know where this team sits on a couple of guys, and Juice Scruggs is one that I can't put my finger on just yet. From the O-line, let's talk about the guy in charge, the QB1, the franchise, CJ Stroud. Is he not the guy? Fake news. Fake news. CJ Stroud was pressured on 42% of his dropbacks up against the Rams, and he actually had one of his best showings throughout his entire NFL career whenever he was pressured. He wasn't bad. 9 of 10 on those pressures whenever throwing the ball. He did get sacked a couple times. That might be the biggest weakness of C.J. Stroud, is identifying the blitz before the play happens and setting up the protection to, put him in a good position. And I think his pocket work needs a lot of work, but you see the talent. I mean, there's a couple throws in this game where you sat back and you were like, damn, that was an incredible throw. There was one to Justin Watson. It was a deep out route that he kind of floated in there. It was beautiful. The interception that he had to Jaden Higgins. Jaden had the ball in his hands, and it got ripped out by the defender. He put it in a spot that he thought only Jaden could get it. Jaden just couldn't, secure the ball, and have those strong hands on the ball. I'm not too worried about C.J. Stroud. I'm more worried about the pieces around him and the fact that Nico Collins got 3 catches for 25 yards. That's what I'm more worried about. C.J. Stroud, though, he's still our guy. I'm still rocking with CJ7. I mean, I don't see how you can turn away from him at this point. I still think he's the guy. Number 3, though, is this team undisciplined? Hell yes, they are. 4 Toro heads, and DeMeco Ryans talked about it after the game, and it is still so frustrating on both sides of the football that the Texans continue to get penalized, continue to have flags thrown against them. I mean, you look at the stats, 11 penalties for 80 yards. 11 penalties for 80 yards. 11 different points in this game where the Texans made a dumb decision. And it's just backbreaking. It's what ruins drives. It's what, extends drives for the other team. And this Texans team in multiple fronts just absolutely, just showed their youth. And you think, DeMeco Ryans, he's a player's coach. Is he not hard enough on these guys? Is he not, telling these guys, hey, we got to get this shit figured out yesterday? Because this was the same problem that we had last year. And the fact that that's rolling over into 2025 is a massive problem for this Texans team that they need to fix ASAP. We'll talk about the defense. We'll talk about DeMeco Ryans in just a moment. But today's show is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss out on any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. For my picks, I was so close. So close. C.J. Stroud, more on the rushing yards. Got it. Nick Chubb, more on the rushing yards. Got it. Matthew Stafford did not throw an interception. But don't worry, because PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. So I flexed that lineup. Even though I got one wrong, I still doubled my money because the flex play is there to help you out. That's why PrizePicks invented it for all of its users. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, is the Texans secondary, is it overrated? Let's talk about the defense. I wanted to give this fake news, but I'm going to give it one Toro head because I was sitting up here saying the Texans have the best secondary in the entire National Football League. Did not look like it in week 1. Did not. I still don't understand why in the most important parts of the game, DeMeco Ryans wants to put Jalen Petrie on, their best defender, their best receiver in Puka Nacua that let the Rams get a first down and finish the game off. Stingley got burned a couple of times and had a bad penalty against Davante Adams that extended a drive. I just thought all around the secondary did not play up to where they were supposed to be. And I know you're probably rolling your eyes and looking at this score and saying, Jeremy, the Rams only scored 14 points, and you're talking about the Texans defense? Yes, because I just feel like I have them at such a high standard. This Texans defense showed me so much last year that I was expecting this Texans defense to maybe even pitch a shutout in this game. And I know that's a lot asking to go up against the Rams, Davante Adams, Puka Nacua. You have Matthew Stafford, who maybe he was just absolutely playing us all because the back looked pretty fine. And they just torched the Texans when it mattered the most. That first drive of the second half that the Rams did, they were just absolutely taking it to this Texans defense, marching the ball up the field, and the Texans couldn't do anything about it. Do I think the secondary is bad? No. I still think this Texans team has a top 5, top 10 defense when they're playing their best. They were not playing their best, especially in the second half up against the Rams. And I just, if it wasn't for an Azeez Al-Shire punch-out at the end of the game, Texans defense might have let up 21 points. But I still think the secondary did not play up to their standard. in this week 1 game. Let's look at the second one. The defense bailed out the offense. I just mentioned it. 4 Toro heads. Yes, they did. They gave the offense a chance to score at the end of the game. And DeMeco Ryans and Titus Howard, worth noting. The Texans, it was 4th and 2. And there was maybe like 5 minutes left in the game. They didn't go for it. They ended up punting it away. And they were on their own side of the football, right? They were on the football field. They were on, I believe, their like 28-yard line. But they looked visibly frustrated that the Texans didn't go for it. Because once again, they put it in the defense's lap and saying, please save us. Please help us, Will Anderson. Please help us, Danielle Hunter. Which Will Anderson, maybe he had the best game of the whole day for the Houston Texans. He was awesome. And I said before the season, I think he might be the best player on this Texans team. I think after this game, a lot of Texans fans probably think the same way after seeing Will Anderson play. He's outstanding. Actually, I believe he probably had 2 sacks in this game, but maybe I have to go back and watch the tape. But I think this defense continued to bail out the offense, continued to, make plays when they needed to. And even though the secondary didn't play up to their snuff, I think they still had a decent game. So the defense 100% bailed out this offense during the game. If you only give up 14 points, most NFL teams are winning that game. If you're only giving up 14 points to the opponent, you just don't expect your offense to only put up 9. Lastly, DeMeco Ryans, is he not the guy? I know this is a question that a lot of Texans fans were worried about. And a lot of Texans fans we're talking about DeMeco Ryans, his decisions. This is fake news. And I think it's just, the fact that we're even having this conversation around DeMeco Ryans not being the guy after this week 1. I mean, look where the Texans were before DeMeco. They were bottom of the league. They were one of the worst teams in the NFL. They were picking number 2. The reason why they were able to get C.J. Stroud. And DeMeco comes in back-to-back AFC South championships, back-to-back wild card wins. DeMeco is the guy. Now, is Nick Caley the guy on offense? That is still a massive question mark. But I still have faith in DeMeco Ryans. I still have faith that this Texans team can turn around. It's 1 game, 16 more to go. Maybe we go 16-1. Probably not. But still, I believe that this Texans team can turn around, and I still believe this Texans team can, go out Monday and prove us all wrong up against the Bucs, a team that won today, their week 1 matchup up against the Falcons. I think the Texans really can turn it around and really help out, this team. Because, look at the Colts. They won week 1. Jags, they won week 1. Texans are not at the top of this division right now. They are not. And I want to hear from you. I asked about the secondary earlier. Are you concerned about the Texans secondary? Give me a yes, give me a no down in the comments section. This is where I'm going to leave you off because this was maybe my hardest decision in, talking about this game. And I want to hear some more input from you guys. If you think I'm being out of bounds, calling out the secondary, saying that they didn't play that well, or am I being too easy on them? Let me know down in the comment section. Make sure to stay tuned for the rest of the week as I give you more updates around your Houston Texans all year long.